Jon Gruden didn't just criticize the Browns. He challenged their entire direction. As the franchise struggles through one of its most disappointing seasons, Gruden's public declaration that he could fix the team if given the reins puts Kevin Stefanski directly in the crosshairs. At the heart of Gruden's bold claim is Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback he believes should already be leading the offense. The fact that Sanders is consistently impressed in practice, yet remains benched, has sparked widespread disbelief. Gruden's comments aren't just loud. They echo a frustration shared by analysts, insiders, and fans who see the team's potential slipping away game by game.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This confrontation isn't about media noise. It's about a team on the brink of collapse and a coach refusing to change course. Gruden's move amplifies the urgency for the Browns to make a shift, especially as Sanders continues to be sidelined in favor of underperforming starters. The window for a turnaround is closing, and every decision now carries long-term weight. The Cleveland Browns just became the hottest mess in the NFL. And no, it's not because of a surprise loss or a locker room fight. It's because Jon Gruden, yes, that Jon Gruden, is publicly gunning for Kevin Stefanski's job, not behind closed doors. Not in vague, diplomatic terms. He straight up said he could fix the Browns, and his plan? Put Shedeur Sanders under center. And if that sounds wild, that's because it is. In a league built on quiet politics and backroom handshakes, Gruden pulled the fire alarm in broad daylight. He's not just questioning Stefanski's coaching. He's essentially saying, move over, let a real coach handle this. And he's hinging it all on Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who isn't even starting right now. The context? The Browns just lost to the Jets. The Jets, a team that has been the league's favorite punchline for the better part of a decade. That loss wasn't just a blemish. It was a statement, and not a good one. Fans are livid. Analysts are bewildered. And Jon Gruden? He's positioning himself as the guy who could rescue this sinking ship, if only the Browns are hand and wheel, and the keys to Shedeur Sanders. So what's going on in Cleveland? Well, let's rewind. Kevin Stefanski, still clinging to the head coach role, has made one thing painfully clear. He's not budging on the quarterback situation. Despite Shedeur Sanders lighting it up in preseason and dominating in practice, Stefanski refuses to start him. Instead, he's sticking with Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback whose performances so far have left fans with more questions than hope. And it's not just the fans raising their eyebrows. Inside sources, analysts, even players, are beginning to wonder what Stefanski is doing. Every week Shedeur sits, it feels less like strategy and more like stubbornness. The team's energy? Flat. The offense? Stalling. The trust in leadership? Evaporating. And that's where Gruden comes in. He sees what so many others do, a team ignoring one of its most promising weapons. And Gruden isn't mincing words. He believes Shedeur Sanders could be the future of this franchise if someone with the guts to start him steps in. The boldness of it all is what's shaking the NFL. Gruden isn't just talking about potential. He's saying he could lead the Browns. He would start Sanders, and he would win. It's not a subtle critique. It's a takeover pitch. Stefanski's response? Silence. Or worse, more commitment to the same losing formula. After that Jets game, most coaches would hit the panic button. Stefanski? He doubled down. Gabriel stays in. Sanders stays benched. And it's not like Sanders is untested or inexperienced. He's consistently impressed in practice. Coaches and insiders appraise his decision-making, his arm, his poise. But none of that seems to matter. Not to Stefanski. The reason this is hitting such a nerve is because it's not just about one bad loss or one quarterback controversy. This is about a coach who looks increasingly disconnected. Sources say Stefanski might already have one foot out the door, with other coaching opportunities floating around, which makes the situation even more frustrating. Because if he's mentally checked out, why is he making choices that could sabotage the Browns' future? Some fans think it's ego. Others think it's about protecting his record. Whatever the reason, it's coming at the expense of real progress. And while the Browns stall, the pressure from outside is building. Gruden's public comments have opened the floodgates. Sports talk shows are buzzing. Former players are chiming in. Social media is erupting with calls to fire Stefanski and give Sanders a shot he clearly deserves. The Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing credibility. And when your former Super Bowl winning coach is volunteering to take over mid-season and start a bench QB, the dysfunction isn't just visible, it's radioactive. To make matters worse, the Browns aren't exactly heading into an easy stretch. Their next game? Against the Ravens, one of the most aggressive, dangerous teams in the league right now. If Stefanski refuses to make a change and Gabriel stumbles again, things could spiral fast. This is no longer a question of if changes should happen, it's when. And with every day that Shedeur Sanders sits on the sidelines, the answer feels more urgent. Fans are tired. They see a spark sitting on the bench while the team drags itself through the mud. They see a young quarterback ready for the spotlight, while leadership keeps pretending everything's fine. Spoiler, it's not. And it's not just about potential. It's about timing. Every game Sanders doesn't play is one more week of wasted opportunity. He's not a long-term maybe. He's a right-now solution. The Browns have a chance to pivot. They could reset the narrative, inject energy, and show they're serious about turning things around. But as long as Stefanski refuses to adapt, the window shrinks. And if he's truly eyeing other jobs, then what exactly is motivating his choices? Because it sure doesn't look like winning. What's happening in Cleveland is a textbook example of leadership decay. Stubbornness dressed up as strategy. And now the Browns are facing a decision that could define not just this season, but their future. Start Sanders and see what happens? Or stick with the status quo and brace for collapse? Gruden didn't just call out the coaching. He called out the entire organization's resistance to change. And he's not alone. The louder the criticism grows, the more obvious it becomes. Something has to give. The talent is there. The urgency is real. The leadership? Questionable at best. And it all begs the question, are the Browns going to wait until the season slips away completely before they admit the obvious? Right now, it feels like the franchise is clinging to comfort instead of chasing potential. They've got a quarterback in Shedeur Sanders who could turn things around, and a former coach practically begging to unleash him. The only thing stopping them? Pride, or fear, or both. So here we are, one of the league's most dysfunctional storylines playing out in real time. A coach who won't budge. A quarterback wasting away on the bench. And a fan base watching it all unfold like a slow-motion car crash. If the Browns don't act soon, the consequences won't just be missed playoffs. It'll be another chapter in a franchise defined more by what could have been than what was. You got a former NFL coach publicly offering a lifeline. You've got a young quarterback ready to lead. You got fans begging for a shift. The only thing missing? A front office willing to pull the trigger. Let's see how long they wait. And now we want to hear from you. Should the Browns fire Stefanski and give Shedeur Sanders the starting job before it's too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like if you're done watching the Browns spin in circles. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this NFL chaos. Because with drama like this, we're just getting started. The fact that it's come to this, a public call out from Jon Gruden, isn't just unusual, it's unprecedented. Coaches don't usually step into the spotlight to suggest they could do someone else's job better. It's taboo, it's bold, and it's clearly coming from a place of deep frustration. And honestly, he's saying what a lot of people are thinking. Because at this point, it's hard to defend Kevin Stefanski. His refusal to even consider putting Shedeur Sanders in has become the hill he's apparently willing to die on. And while he's digging in, the Browns are slowly bleeding out. Let's not sugarcoat this. The Browns' offense is anemic. It lacks rhythm, creativity, and most importantly, results. Dillon Gabriel, for all his effort, just isn't getting it done. And again, this isn't just about one or two bad games. This is about a consistent pattern of underperformance. The kind that breaks morale, tanks seasons, and burns out fan bases. Meanwhile, Sanders sits, waiting, watching, probably wondering how many more games a team has to lose before someone wakes up and makes the obvious move. And for those who want to argue that Stefanski is just being cautious, let's be real. There is no safe route when you just lost to the Jets. Playing it safe is what got them here in the first place. In fact, The only thing riskier than starting Sanders right now is not starting him. Because what happens if this team loses to the Ravens? Or the next one after that? The whispers become shouts. The locker room fractures. The fans check out. And Stefanski? He becomes another cautionary tale to coach who couldn't adapt when it mattered most. What's especially maddening is that this isn't a team with zero options. They have talent. They have a defense that, on paper, can compete. They've got weapons on offense. But none of that means anything without a quarterback who can make plays. And again, that quarterback is literally right there on the roster. Shedeur Sanders isn't some untested rookie out of nowhere. He's a polished passer with NFL-level poise. Coaches have seen it. Teammates have seen it. The only person who seems blind to it? Kevin Stefanski. And maybe that's because he knows the clock's ticking for him. Insiders are already talking about Stefanski looking at other coaching opportunities, which might explain a lot. If he's halfway out the door, then protecting his image becomes more important than fixing the team. That would also explain why he's playing favorites, why he's sticking with Gabriel, even when it's clearly not working. Because switching now would be an admission of failure. And to a coach with one foot on a plane to his next job, that's a move he's not willing to make. But that decision isn't just hurting the Browns this season. It's potentially hurting them for years to come. Because here's the thing about quarterbacks. They don't just need talent. They need time. They need experience. They need real game reps to grow. Sitting Shedeur now doesn't just stall the season's momentum. It delays his entire development curve. Worse, it risks alienating him. And with the player empowerment era in full swing, the Browns should be very careful about how they handle a young star with that much promise. Players talk. Agents talk. And if Shedeur Sanders feels like he's being buried on purpose, the long-term damage to that relationship could be irreversible. So let's take stock. You've got a coach on the verge of burnout, a starter who can't find consistency, and a future franchise quarterback collecting dust on the bench. Oh. And now a former Super Bowl winner is calling the whole thing a dumpster fire and offering to fix it himself. Tell me how this isn't a crisis. At this point, the Browns front office has two choices. Either they listen to a growing wave of voices demanding change, or they stay locked into a strategy that's obviously not working. And let's be clear, it's not just fans pushing this narrative anymore. Analysts, insiders, players, and now Gruden are calling for a shift. There's only so long you can pretend everything's fine before reality steamrolls a denial. Every week Sanders doesn't play is one step closer to a lost season. Every snap Gabriel takes is another opportunity for disaster. And every day Stefanski holds the reins tight is a reminder that leadership without flexibility is a fast track to irrelevance. The Browns had a moment, a chance to capitalize on preseason hype, young talent, and a supportive, if skeptical, fan base. That window is closing. Rapidly. What's baffling is that they're choosing to go down this path stubbornly, as if sticking with a failed formula somehow earns respect. Spoiler, it doesn't. It earns losses. And while Gruden stepping into the conversation adds drama, it also adds pressure. Because now the Browns aren't just facing internal criticism. They're on the national stage, under the microscope, and any misstep gets amplified. The longer they delay, the more they look out of touch, and the more justified Gruden's comments seem. That's the irony. They could have shrugged off a few fans complaining. But when a guy with Gruden's resume says he could walk in and fix it with Sanders, that gets attention. That gets clicks. That forces conversations in front offices. So where does this leave the Browns? In the danger zone. They're stuck between loyalty and logic, between comfort and chaos. And while they hesitate, their season is slowly slipping through their fingers. If Stefanski doesn't want to start Sanders, fine. But then what's the plan? What's the vision? Because right now, it looks like there isn't one. You can't keep talking about development and long-term success while deliberately sidelining the most talented quarterback on your roster. That's not coaching. That's self-sabotage. And the worst part? It's preventable. The Browns don't need a rebuild. They need a reset. They need a leader who isn't afraid to make the hard call. Someone who can look at the reality of the situation and say, we've got a better option. Let's use it. Until then, all they're doing is wasting time, wasting talent, and possibly wasting one of the most exciting quarterback prospects in recent memory. It shouldn't take a media circus to wake this team up. But if that's what it takes, so be it. The Browns can still salvage this. The question is, will they? Gruden threw down the gauntlet. Now it's on Cleveland to respond. Will they shake things up and finally let Shedeur lead? Or will they stick with a sinking ship out of sheer pride? If the Browns don't make a move soon, they're not just risking a few bad games. They're risking their entire future. And everyone can see it happening in real time. This isn't one of those subtle behind-the-scenes dysfunctions that leaks out years later in a 30-30 doc. No, this is a full-blown, spotlight-drenched implosion. And the most frustrating part? It's completely avoidable. You've got a promising quarterback. You've got a crumbling system. And you've got a fan base screaming for change. But somehow, the people in charge are choosing inertia over innovation, loyalty over logic. What's Kevin Stefanski clinging to exactly? His system? His track record? Because right now, the system's not working and the track record is going up in flames. The longer he insists on starting Dillon Gabriel, the more it feels like he's not coaching for Browns. He's coaching for his resume. And let's talk about Gabriel for a second. Is this even fair to him anymore? The guy was thrown into the spotlight, clearly not ready for the kind of pressure he's facing, and every shaky throw just fuels the backlash. He's not the villain here. He's collateral damage. The real issue is the stubborn decision to keep forcing a situation that's clearly not working. Every week he starts is another week where Shedeur Sanders watches from the sidelines. And what's the message there? That talent doesn't matter? That politics beats performance? You think the rest of the locker room isn't paying attention? You think players don't see who's getting rewarded and who's getting iced out? This kind of thing doesn't just affect the scoreboard. It hits the soul of a team. The energy in that locker room changes when guys start to feel like decisions aren't based on merit, when coaches play favorites instead of playing to win. And then there's Shedeur, arguably the most hyped-up young quarterback Cleveland's had in years. He's proven himself in practice. He showed flashes in preseason. He's checked every box except the one that matters, getting actual game reps. What more does he need to do? How long does he have to wait? At some point, this isn't just about evaluation. It's about control. It's about a coach flexing authority rather than flexing adaptability. It's starting to feel like Stefanski would rather go down with his guy than rise with the right guy. That's not leadership. That's ego. Let's not forget, NFL seasons are short. You don't get infinite chances. You don't get to waste 10 games on stubbornness and then decide to make the switch once the season's already lost. If you believe in the kid, you give him the keys now. You give him time to grow. You let him fail, sure, but you give him a chance to fail forward. Because the longer he sits, the more you're setting him up for failure later. There's no better teacher than live game reps, especially when the team still has a shot at course correcting. The Browns could easily be in a playoff conversation with a quarterback who knows how to move the chains, command the offense, and spark something new. Instead, they're treading water. Barely. And if the Ravens game goes the way people expect, the Browns won't be treading, they'll be drowning. So what happens then? More press conferences, more vague excuses, more "we believe in our process" statements while fans watch another potential packed season circle the drain. This could have been a breakout year for Cleveland. Instead, it's turning into a case study in how not to manage talent. You can't preach culture and development while sitting your most gifted player on the bench. You can't say you want to win now while making decisions that scream protect the status quo. What makes this all so hard to stomach is that the fix is right there. This isn't some unsolvable crisis. This isn't a team with no options. The Browns have a quarterback ready to go and a massive opportunity to shift the momentum of their season. But they're frozen, paralyzed by fear, loyalty, and indecision. And now Jon Gruden enters the picture like a wrecking ball. He didn't whisper his critique. He shouted it from the rooftops. He said, "Give me the team. Give me Sanders. I'll show you what winning looks like." That's not subtle. That's a call to action. And while you might have opinions about Gruden, his baggage, his style, his past, The fact that he even feels compelled to speak out tells you how absurd the situation has gotten. Coaches don't just pop up and say they could do it better unless the dysfunction is screaming loud enough for everyone to hear. So what now? The Browns front office is in a pressure cooker. Do they stick with Stefanski and pray for a miracle? Or do they take control, admit what everyone already knows, and hit the reset button before it's too late? Because make no mistake, if they keep going down this path, it will be too late. The playoffs? Gone. The fan base? Disengaged. And Shedeur Sanders? Either mentally checked out or already thinking about where else he could be appreciated. There's a real risk here that goes beyond this season. This is about trust, identity, direction. Do the Browns want to be the kind of franchise that makes bold moves and maximizes talent? Or do they want to stay stuck in a cycle of mediocrity while the rest of the league passes them by? This is one of those crossroads moments where you find out who's really leading, who's willing to make uncomfortable choices, who actually cares about winning, and who's just playing the game to survive. Right now, every sign points to survival mode. And in the NFL, that's the fastest way to end up irrelevant. Stefanski might be a good guy. He might even be a decent coach. But at some point, good intentions don't cut it. You either produce results or you get out of the way. And right now, he's standing directly between the Browns and their best shot at saving this season. So, what'll it be, Cleveland? You got a quarterback who's ready. You got fans who are begging for a spark. You've even got a former Super Bowl coach calling you out on national platforms. The excuses have run out. The patience is gone. The only thing left is the decision. Start Shedeur Sanders. Now, before this whole thing burns down completely. And if you've made it this far, we want to know what you think. Should the Browns bench Dillon Gabriel? Is Stefanski just buying time before he exits stage left? And is Shedeur Sanders the missing piece to save the season? Tell us in the comments. Slam that like button if you're tired of watching Cleveland waste talent. And hit subscribe. We'll be here breaking down every twist, every meltdown, and every decision that sets the NFL on fire. Because the Browns saga, it's only just beginning.